I'll get us started. How prevalent is the problem that we're seeing?
The latest statistics from NIMH were that depression across the country, regardless of socioeconomic status, had doubled in the last 5 years. Expressed sometimes in different ways, whether it's concern about grades or concern about money or concern about passing the high school exit exam versus passing AP courses. But the level of stress, I would say, clinicians certainly feel, and the statistics are, the data is that it's pretty much across the country.
In our district, they're actually going in the opposite direction. They're putting more benchmark tests. Why is there such a disconnect? The teachers are really upset. I mean, why aren't they listening to teachers? Why aren't they even considering our voice at all?
There's always been a bit of a disconnect between research and policy and practice, right? But I think what we're finding is there is a fear that we're falling behind in other countries. We don't do as well on the tests, and there is a fear that we're not holding students accountable, and that's the only way that we can measure learning. The problem with this is it becomes a test factory. It becomes everything is about the test and prepping for the tests. And as I said in the movie, the tests aren't necessarily measuring the kind of learning and retained learning that we want the kids to actually have.
I got back from China a couple of months ago and had many conversations with people in high positions in education in China. I thought it was very interesting that they kept asking me how they could fix their school system so it would promote innovation and creativity, and I kept saying, I don't think you want to emulate what's going on in the United States. You're really talking about perhaps an education system that is really becoming a thing of the past. So I know that other countries are grappling with some of these same issues.
I have a privilege of being able to offer internships to Stanford undergrads. And the most frightening thing I can do to those kids is give them a blank page and the result that I want. They're continually checking in. They continually want to know, is this the way that I do this? Am I doing it right every step along the way? Which for me, and I'll be 50 next year, for my generation, if my boss did that to me, I'd quit. Tell me what you want, get out of my way, and I'll figure it out on my own. These kids don't do that.
I think it would really help if we thought about kids and how to have them thrive as opposed to how to have them be successful. I think successful has become so irrevocably tied to notions of material success that we almost need a new language for talking about what makes for a healthy kid.
If you take a look at what's going on in Finland, they score the highest in the world. They start school, as you said, later. They don't test all the time. They do project-based learning. So what are we doing here as a nation? We have race to the top, tying test scores to teachers' salaries. In order to get that federal money, you have to implement those race to the top requirements, which means that teachers are required to teach to the test. As a country, we need to rethink what we're doing.
Just one other thing that I want people to know about Finland is that it also is a country in which being a teacher is a very high status profession. They are very well paid and they are prepared in much greater depth and supported as teachers way beyond what they are in the United States. So there's a tendency for us to look someplace else or to look and pick up one piece of it and not realize that it's a whole package of policies and practices and cultural values. So that when we do look for solutions, we need to be aware that one piece in some cases can do more harm than good. We also need to make sure that teachers have the kind of preparation and support to do project learning and to teach in a way that is really individualized, that promotes children's social emotional development, that is engaging and interesting, and that takes a lot of skill.
What I really want to know, though, is why so many kids get completely snubbed in the education system today, because I know a ton of really great people who completely get support cut off from them in this education system. And it really makes me sad because I've had great experiences and I wonder why they don't too.
I think for me, in today's culture and our education system, it seems that we're holding up a very narrow way of looking at what a young person is supposed to do. And so I think you're absolutely right that a very large percentage of young people feel marginalized and like they're not going to measure up. And so what looks like laziness or they don't care or they've checked out is not that at all. I think all kids are born with an innate desire to learn and to grow as people, and our system tends to take that out of them today.
You walk into any school in this, high school in this country, and you know immediately what's valued in that school, because the first thing you see is the athletic cabinet with all the athletic awards that they've won, and then you see the honor roll. And it doesn't have to be that way. There are many other things to value. And so many kids who have skills and they walk into the school and there's nothing in that school that says to them, what you bring here is valuable.
Now that my daughter's in 5th grade, 3 hours of school comes in the door with her. And at some point, I realize it comes down to civil disobedience. If I just say, I'm sorry, she's not going to do the homework and we're taking the consequences. I'd rather she come to this movie or go to my music group with me or making a musical instrument out of rubber bands. It's like, that's what counts to us, but she's going to get the consequences. If we all just showed up an hour later at school, what are they going to do?
I think people, well, first of all, it's the general political climate right now. I mean, it's everywhere. No Child Left Behind was not the first of standards and accountability. It, to some degree, historically, was an overreaction to the sense that schools were not taking responsibility, that they, especially in low-income communities, they were lowering their expectations and not really helping children achieve and learn at the level that they could and wanted to. And to react to that, they were going to hold them accountable, damn it, and make all kids achieve very high standards. So in some respects, it was just an overreaction historically to a problem, and it was a real problem. I saw it all the time. But the solution, first of all, was not an effective solution, and two, it created a whole nother set of problems. I'm sort of a born optimist, but as I travel through policy circles and education circles and parents and the various constituencies that Vicki's movie is targeted at, I'm hearing a backlash that is very loud and clear. Now, what I hope is we don't go all the way back, but I do think that we have to understand that the solution is a very complex one. It's deep cultural roots in what this culture values, what we see as success. I mean, those are not simple things that you just change, and it's why I think the media is such an important tool, because it's not going to be people like me, and it's not going to be politicians. It's going to be people like you in the audience and those who are artistic and able to get a point across and help you feel and think differently than you are usually feeling and thinking, and help bring you together that is going to solve this problem.
I'm a former college professor and an international businessman. And from that perspective, what I'm seeing is that we have to have measurements. We have to be able to find out how much progress we're making and whatever we're doing. But what are we measuring? Are we measuring the right things? The ivory tower is, a name that we use for measuring people that memorize useless facts. But in business, often we're focused too much on money and not enough on solving problems. If people got together, and you talked about project-based learning, I think that's it. Right? If we got together and actually work on problems, solve them together, instead of competing with each other just to get test scores or accumulate big bank accounts, maybe we could do our education around solving real problems and then get the satisfaction of solving them together as a community.
I hope that all of you leave here with the message of feeling empowered, that we're talking a lot about how are we going to get policies to change, how are we going to change the system, and actually we all have a tremendous amount of power if we form alliances with one another and start advocating for change. The film is really just a vehicle to bring people together to talk about these issues and then to inspire change.
Well, I'd like to thank Deborah, Denise, Vicki, and Madeline, and all of you. Let's give them a round of applause.